I am checking the overall condition of the vehicle. All lights, reflectors are clean, functional, not broken. Headlights are clear. Clearance lights, turn signals, and reflectors are amber. There are no puddles underneath the vehicle. On the passenger side of the vehicle, the engine and transmission have no fluid dripping from the underside. The water pump is properly mounted and secured, operates properly, not damaged, not leaking, belt driven. The belt deflects no more than half to 3/4 of an inch of play when pushed by hand. Belt is not worn, cracked, or frayed. Alternator, properly mounted and secured, operates properly, not damaged, no loose wires, belt driven. Belt deflects no more than half an inch of 3/4 of an inch of when pushed by hand. The belt is not worn, cracked, or frayed. Engine hoses, good condition, not damaged, not leaking. Engine oil, safe operating level above refill, checked by dipstick. Water coolant reservoir, safe operating level above refill, checked by sight glass or by removing the cap. Power steering reservoir, safe operating level above refill, checked by sight glass or dipstick. Power steering pump, properly mounted and secured, operates properly, not damaged, not leaking, gear driven. That's probably the power steering pump, because the power steering reservoir hoses come over here. Power steering pump. Air compressor and governor, properly mounted and secured, operates properly, not damaged, not leaking, gear driven. Steering box and hoses, properly mounted and secured, no loose missing nuts or bolts, not leaking, not damaged. Steering linkage, no loose missing nuts or bolts or cotter keys. Arms, rods, links, joints, and sockets are not cracked, loose, or worn. On the suspension, the mounts are properly mounted and secured, no missing or damaged bushings. Spring hangers are not bent, broken, cracked, or dented. Leaf springs, not bent, broken, cracked, or dented, not shifted or missing. U-bolts and other axle mounting parts, properly mounted and secured, no broken, loose, or missing parts. Shock absorber, properly mounted and secured, not leaking. Brake hoses and fittings, properly mounted and secured, not worn, cracked, frayed, or leaking, and can supply air. Brake chambers, properly mounted and secured, not bent, broken, cracked, or dented, not leaking, no loose or missing clamps. No loose or missing clamps. The clamp goes around the brake chamber like that. Slack adjusters and push rods, properly mounted and secured, no broken, loose, or missing parts. Push rod is adjusted to no more than 1 inch when pulled by hand with the brakes released. Push rod is adjusted to no more than 1 inch when pulled by hand with the brakes released. Brakes linings and drums. Brake linings and drums. No cracks, dents, or holes. No loose, missing nuts or bolts. Linings are not worn dangerously thin. No debris, oil, or grease. Tires. Tread depth is at least 4/30 seconds. Evenly worn with no cuts or damage to the tread or the sidewalls. Tire pressure. Checked by air gauge at the valve stem. The valve stem and the caps have no broken, loose, or missing parts. The rim inside and outside is not bent, broken, cracked, or dented. Not damaged, with no illegal welds. Lug nuts are not missing. No shiny spots or rust trails that indicate loose lug nuts. No cracks or distortions around the bolt holes. Hub seal not leaking. Safe operating level above refill. Checked by sight glass or cap. Driver door. Mirrors and brackets are properly mounted and secured. No loose fittings. The door is not damaged. Open smoothly. Hinges are properly mounted and secured. Windows are clean. Not damaged. Seals are intact. Door closes smoothly. Fuel tank. Properly mounted and secured. Not leaking at the tank. The cap is tight and not leaking at the cap. Emergency equipment. Fire extinguisher. Properly mounted and secured. Fully charged. Inside the compartment, there are 3 triangles and spare fuses. The side of the tractor, turn signals and reflectors are clean, functional, not broken, amber in color. Catwalk and steps. Properly mounted and secured to the frame, not damaged. Solid, free of debris. Tractor frame and cross members. Cross members. No cracks, dents, or holes. No broken welds. No loose or missing cross members. Drive shaft. Not bent, broken, cracked, or dented, or twisted. The U-joints are properly mounted and secured and free of debris. Air and electrical lines. I would check the same on the tractor as I do on the trailer. The hoses and lines are not worn, cut, spliced, taped, leaking, pinched, crimped, dragging, tangled, or chafing on any parts. The connectors and fittings are firmly sealed, not damaged or leaking. The glad hands are locked in place, not damaged or leaking. The electrical plug and cap is locked in place, firmly seated, which also means plugged in. Locked in place, firmly seated. The front of the trailer is secure, not damaged, strong enough to contain cargo. No bulges, cracks, dents, or holes. No missing rivets. Clearance lights are clean, functional, not broken, and amber in color. Fifth wheel slide cylinder and lines, not leaking. Trailer apron, not bent, broken, cracked, or dented. There's no gap between the fifth wheel and the trailer. The skid plate is properly mounted and secured and properly lubricated. The trailer release arm is locked in position. The trailer release arm is in the locked position. The platform base is right here. This is the platform base. Platform base is properly mounted and secured, not bent, broken, cracked, or dented. Locking pins, no loose or missing pins, and in the locked position. Mounting bolts. They mount the fifth wheel to the frame. No loose, missing nuts or bolts, or clamps if present, securely fastened to the brackets. Kingpin, not bent, broken, cracked, or dented. Which you can see more from over here. Kingpin, not bent, broken, cracked, or dented. Locking jaws close tight around the shaft of the kingpin, and the fifth wheel is positioned so the landing gear will clear the mud flaps in turns. Landing gear is positioned so it will clear the mud flaps in turns. Just ignore the fact this truck has no mud flaps. The back of the tractor, lights and reflectors are clean, functional, not broken. Tail lights are red. Reflectors, if present, are red. Reflective tape, if present, is clean and affixed. On the rear of the tractor, I would check the mounts, leaf springs, U-bolts, shock absorbers, brake hoses and fittings, brake chambers, slack adjusters and push rods, brake linings and drums, tires, rims, lug nuts, and valve stems, as I did on the front of the tractor, except for the torque arm, properly mounted and secured, not damaged. Airbags, not damaged or leaking. Air mounts. Brackets, bolts, and bushings are properly mounted and secured. No loose, missing nuts or bolts. Not broken or damaged. Disc wheels, evenly spaced, not damaged, and free of debris. Tires, at least 2 seconds of tread depth. Axle seals, properly mounted and secured. Nope, that's not. Axle seals, not leaking. Axle seals, not leaking. Mud flaps, properly mounted and secured, not damaged. Mud flaps, properly mounted and secured, not damaged. Landing gear and pads properly mounted and secured. No broken, loose, or missing parts. Landing gear is in the fully raised position. Handle is secured with no structural damage. Because when we get tested, this will be fully raised because you will have driven there. In the yard, it's lowered. Landing gear properly mounted and secured. No broken, loose, or missing parts. Is in the fully raised position. Handle is secured. No structural damage. Side of trailer. No bulges, cracks, dents, or holes. And no missing rivets. Marker lights. Lights and reflectors. Marker lights are amber. Marker lights are amber. Clearance. Well, this is red. Well, marker lights are amber. Clearance lights are amber. Reflective tape is clean and affixed. Trailer frame and cross members. I would check the same as I did on the tractor, except for no holes or damage in the floor or the box of the trailer. Rear of the trailer, I would check the mounts, leaf springs, U-bolts, torque arms, brake hoses and fittings, brake chambers, slack adjusters and push rods, brake linings and drums, tires and rims, lug nuts and valve stems, plus the disc wheels, hub seals, and mud flaps, exactly as I did on the tractor, except for on the back of the trailer. We're going to check to make sure the door and hinges are not damaged, opens and closes, and is securely latched. Lights and reflectors are clean, functional, not broken. Clearance lights, tail lights, and reflectors are all red. Analog brake system light, if equipped, is amber. Not equipped on this trailer. Reflective tape is clean and affixed. On the passenger side of the vehicle, I would check everything on this side exactly as I did on the other side, except for the exhaust. The muffler, heat shield, and stack are all properly mounted and secured with no loose, missing nuts or bolts or clamps. Tightly connected, not bent, broken, cracked, or dented. No signs of carbon buildup to indicate any leaks or holes.